I really liked Bad Times at the El Royale. I expected to like Bad Times at the El Royale. I did not expect it to be this good, however, but it was, and thank God it was. The El Royale is written and directed by Drew Goddard, a man I believe to be a god. I'm not kidding. Drew Goddard previously wrote the screenplay for Cloverfield, one of my all-time favorite horror films. He wrote the screenplay for The Martian, which was then directed by Ridley Scott, who ended up making it one of the best space films I've ever seen. And he also directed and co-wrote the screenplay for Cabin in the Woods with Joss Whedon. I haven't seen that one yet, but I do plan to now that I've seen El Royale. Oh shit, yeah, I forgot. He also was responsible for creating the Netflix show Daredevil, which is good, really good. And also the new season comes out today, I think, if I got this up on time. Anyway, so as you can tell by those examples, if you didn't heard of them or seen them, or just take my word as it is, Drew Goddard is a really good writer, and as I can attest to you all even further, an even fucking better director. The style of Bad Times at the El Royale is inherently Tarantino. The opening, the way the film is divided into parts, the characters, the plot structure. I'm not sure if that's what Drew was going for or not, and regardless of his intent, he does it better, which is bold to say, but I think he makes a better Tarantino film than Tarantino does. A really good comparison to the El Royale is The Hateful Eight, Tarantino's latest film. Both have a fantastic ensemble cast, both have multiple stories going on that intersect in a horrific string of coincidences, and both conclude in the most satisfying of ways. I won't beat around the bush and try to needlessly complicate this video. I'm just trying to make my point clear. You need to see Bad Times at the El Royale. There are 3 reasons why Bad Times at the El Royale is so good and why you have to see it, and I'm going to go over those 3 parts right now. The way El Royale is shot, and the way Drew Goddard chooses to illustrate his story shows his care for the film, which, speaking of, the movie was shot on film, and I know you're probably thinking, well, no shit, Sherlock, of course it's on film! Movies now are more commonly shot on digital, with digital cameras, than they are with actual film and a fucking camera. It's a subtle thing, like with color grading. Most people don't realize it's happening, but for instance, if you've ever seen any of the Marvel shows on Netflix, they're all color graded. Jessica Jones with blue tones, Daredevil with red, Luke Cage yellow, and Iron Fist green. This is shown even more so in The Defenders, where they made it even more obvious to illustrate when one scene was for one hero and when one was for the other. Now, to be honest, those are shitty examples, but I'd say of my audience, that's the most likely places you've all seen color grading. Obvious color grading, at least at play. Granted, my whole point is that it's subtle, so that might not be a great example. It's something that for most people you don't really pick up on. You just know it looks different. It looks special, and that's why when a film is shot on film, I get really excited, because choosing to do that, choosing to shoot on something like that, which is ridiculously more expensive than digital, typically, though not always, means that the director has a good idea for what they want to do and wants to make sure they do it in the best way possible. A lot of the positive ththings I note on films aren't exactly obvious. The best way I describe it is, you know it's better. You watch it and you're like, wow, that's a really good movie, but you don't exactly know why. You're like, I enjoyed that more than most films. And the reality of why is because of these subtle things that without them, it's not making a movie exactly horrible, but with them, it's making a movie way better. I like ensemble casts. I think most people do. A smaller cast is more common to use in filmmaking, and it makes plenty of great films. And with ensemble casts, it's definitely a coin toss on if it'll end up being too convoluted or just perfect. And in either of those cases, it's dependent on 2 things. 1, the writer, and 2, the actors. You can have a perfectly fine story, but the performances can fall flat, and you're left with a sad mess, and vice versa. Bad Times at the El Royale, luckily, strikes the perfect medium. The quintessential Tarantino medium. Bad Times at the El Royale stars Jeff Bridges, Cynthia Erivo, John Hamm, Chris Hemsworth, Dakota Johnson, Kaylee Spaney, and Lewis Pullman. The cast is fucking fantastic. I mean, to be frank, I again find myself comparing it to The Hateful Eight because it's just an amazing set of fantastically skilled people. Also, for those of you who remember my Pacific Rim video, the one demonetized and held hostage by Universal Pictures, fuck you, Division Zephyr. Kaylee Spaney was in that, and I was really unimpressed by her. Like, she was one of the main characters, and I don't even think I mentioned her once at all. She was just so unbelievably unremarkable, which wasn't the case in this movie, which I just think just goes to show that Universal can't do anything fucking right, and she just abandoned film. Fuck Universal. But with the proper directing and the proper space, she's great. Now, when I look at the El Royale, and I look at each performance, and I'm asking myself which one is the best one, Jeff Bridges was the standout. Everyone was great, don't get me wrong. Their performances were incredibly enjoyable and believable, especially John Hamm. But Jeff Bridges, my god. I don't want to spoil anything, but Jesus fuck. Just fucking damn. I like Jeff Bridges. I think he's a great actor, but holy shit. He's really good. He's really fucking good. Really fucking good. Damn. The way Tarantino writes is very specific and serves the purpose in many cases to tell a non-linear narrative. He'll go forward with a story, reach a point, add a new part that explains that part, and then goes back to it. Pulp Fiction is probably the most widely known example of this, although it's not exactly fitting that definition. In it, Quentin Tarantino writes the entire film out of sequence. People die in one scene only to show up in the next because it happened earlier in the movie. It's not just an interesting way to make a film, it's also hard as fucking shit to do it. I get confused when I'm playing games with time travel. I can't even begin to imagine the 4D Cheshire mind has to be playing to write a movie like that. That makes perfect sense, but is entirely out of sequence. Of course, same as with the example I used before, that's not exactly the case with El Royale. In the El Royale, Drew Goddard writes chapters to the film. We have the opening, the El Royale, and then 6 or 7 chapters after that I won't name. They largely operate within the continuity of happening one after another, but many of them start at the last few minutes of the last one, each from the perspective of a different character, and each of them building upon the ending to the prior chapter. And they don't interrupt the way the movie is going, they don't impede anything. Each of them happens at the perfect point, which is again just points to the skill Drew Goddard had when he came to this film and took this idea he had and made it into this. When each chapter happens, the innocent becomes the nefarious, and the nefarious benign in turn. Similar again to The Hateful Eight, which also uses chapters to tell its story, although in a much more linear perspective with only one doing flashbacks. I really don't want to spoil much, but it was very impressive. You don't have to see movies that have so much attention to detail in the story itself. You can see plenty of movies where there's attention to detail in the filmmaking, which this most definitely has, but you don't see ones often where there was such attention to detail in the actual story itself, where it feels so perfect when you see it all connect. It's one of the few movies this year that left me on the edge of my seat in anxiety that I didn't even realize. Essentially, I think very few of you will leave the theater not thinking it's a great movie, and even fewer are wholly dissatisfied with it. Overall, I give Bad Times at the El Royale a 10, which is, some of you may think that's high, some of you may think that's, I don't think, low, but I guess. I put a lot of thought into it. I considered 9.8 because I don't like splitting up the numbers because then it gets way too complex because I'm asking myself every single one, is it better than this, is it better than that, and I don't like comparisons, you guys know that. And really, it's one of the few films this year that I've given that high of a score. I think I gave a 10 for Isle of Dogs, which I stand by. And I think I gave a 10 for A Quiet Place. I've only regretted one score I've given this year, which was to Ready Player One. I gave that way too high of a score. I did kind of say I was giving it a bit of a higher one in that, but I did give it way too high of a score in retrospect. But Bad Times at the El Royale, it's also one of the few films I've ever seen that I immediately wanted to watch again. I know a lot of you guys think I'm overly negative for no reason, that I just like to hate stuff, that I'm turning into I hate everything, or feel like I just have to hate something to even make a video on it. I don't. I just don't think some movies are entirely worth a $12 ticket. It doesn't mean they're not worth seeing, I just don't think it's worth all the money you're gonna spend on it. I don't think it's, the best thing since sliced bread. This is, though. And that's what my reviews normally boil down to for me. I don't want you to waste your money on something, while still being entertaining, because I am a YouTuber, I have to make things entertaining. It can't just be, a written up article, my thesis, but I do keep in mind making sure that when you see a movie, you're not gonna be expecting one thing, getting another, which is the point, more or less, with these. So yeah, I really fucking recommend Bad Times at the El Royale. If you only take one of my opinions to heart, take this one, see it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. I'd love to know your thoughts on Bad Times at the El Royale, if you saw it, and what you'd like to see me talk about next or make a video on. Basically, just please leave a comment letting me know what you thought so I can make changes in the future to make the content better for you and better for me. If you'd like to join my Discord, the link is in the comment section, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this in the future. And if you'd like to support and represent the channel, go check out my merch store. The link is in the description below. I've just launched a whole new line of merch designs, which I have to say are pretty damn neat. Any and all support at the store or on my Patreon are greatly appreciated. Which, by the way, now for starting at $1 a month, that's right, a whole damn dollar, you can read the scripts for my reviews. I've already got several up there and will be uploading all of them as I go through my archive. It also includes notes and in some cases cut segments that were too technical or I ended up stuttering over for way too long. And this week, for all current patrons and prospective ones, you'll be getting my patron-only review for First Man. Anyway, it's only $1 and it really helps me out and gives you guys something that you've asked for in the past. And if you'd like to support more, there are other tiers above it with even more rewards. Feel free to check it out. The link is in the description below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. A huge thank you to Patreon supporters Anonymous and Matt Porter. I really appreciate it. I'm an idiot